What's up, occipital bun containing creatures? Today, I'm talking about how I get lean without counting calories or macros. To a lot of people, especially in the fitness industry, if you tell them that you don't count your calories or your macros, it blows their mind. They cannot wrap their heads around the fact that you do not count what is going into your body. This has happened to me a bunch of times. People have come up to me or asked me online and they said, "Hey, what are your current calories?" And I said, "Yeah, I don't know." And they didn't know how to respond. They're just like, well, how do you know if you're in a deficit or a surplus? I don't. Well, how do you know the size of the deficit or the surplus? I don't. Well, how do you know the ratio of your carbs to your fats to your protein to your fats to your carbs? I don't. It's not that important. Well, how does your pancreas know how much insulin to release to the carbs you're eating? I don't know. It sort of seems to do its own thing. Well, can't you check your food log to count your macros and your calories and then use that to extrapolate your calories and your carbs and your fats and your proteins? I don't have a food log. I don't keep a track of what I eat. I just sort of eat. What about your food scale? Just go grab your food scale and slap all the chicken breast onto it, weigh it and measure it, 23 grams of protein per 100 grams, and there you go. I actually don't eat a lot of chicken breast, actually. Not a huge fan of chicken breast or broccoli or rice or any of that shit. I don't eat that at all, really. What about the food labels? You can just check the food labels of the food labels you're eating, and then you can check that and check your macros from that. Yeah, I don't do that, actually. I don't eat a lot of processed or packaged foods. Plus, I just don't even bother reading the food labels in most cases. What about your ketones? How do you know if you're in ketosis? I don't know if I'm in ketosis, actually. I could be. I might be. I don't know. My body seems to just sort of regulate that and the energy balance and the usage of fats and carbs and the energy deficit. And it just sort of takes care of all that shit on my own. I don't actually have to track it or count it myself. How do you know you're getting in enough grams of protein per day based on the scientific research to maintain all of your muscle mass in a deficit? I don't actually. I could be on 150 grams of protein per day. It could be 200 grams per day. I just don't know. I don't actually count that. Surely you must be getting in a certain amount of fat per day to absorb the vitamins and the minerals that are in your diet optimally, right? Probably. I just sort of eat food and it sort of takes care of itself, you know?
Tiny NPC brain explodes.
So I've done all that. I've counted calories, I've counted macros for about 3 years. I counted every single gram of carbs, fats, protein, even alcohol. I had a little chart in a little book for alcohol when I would go out and I would try to estimate, okay, how many grams of this is 4% alcohol and it's, probably 500 milliliters of beer. Like, how can I would actually calculate how many grams of alcohol I would have per night. Crazy shit, right? But to me, it was normal because that's what it would take to accurately assess my calories. And so I got a very good idea of how many calories I was consuming. And I'm not saying this has no value, because it allows you to approach things from a very analytical point of view. And if you count calories strictly, you basically can't eat out at restaurants. What are you gonna take your food scale to the restaurant, barge into the kitchen and be like, "Hey, who's making my sandwich? Can you measure the bread? What kind of bread is that? Is this turkey? What kind of turkey is this? What's the fat count on that turkey? Can you weigh and measure that? Give me all the details. Lettuce, oh my God, lettuce, that is packing a ton of calories there. Weigh and measure that, get that data back to me pronto, and I can put it in MyFitnessPal and I'll whip up a count." No, okay? Even according to the FDA, anything they put out in terms of like food labels even can be off by 20% legally. So if you eat a lot of processed foods, it probably balances out, but it could be way off. It could be 20% up, 20% down. If you're dieting, that's the size of your surplus or deficit, if not more. I've been that guy, maybe not the kitchen thing, but I've been that guy at the bar, slightly drunk, looking at my beer, trying to calculate how many grams of alcohol were in it so I could write it in my food log later. And at a certain point, it's just kind of sad. And most people, they make food decisions based on how things taste, based on pleasure, based on addiction, based on that dopamine release. It's not based on what they want to be, it's based on what they want to taste. And that is a very big divide. So I think counting calories can have value, and I did it for a long time. Eventually, I lost the log where I kept all of my calories, my food log. And I could have started a new one, but I think part of me realized that it would be better to graduate to a higher level of eating where I don't have to count everything that goes into my body. And for the first week, the first few months actually, I felt really anxious around meal times, and I would still try to count what was going into my body. Even now, I still make decisions based on calories, based on macros, but it's under the surface and it doesn't need to be tracked. In general, when I'm eating to lose body fat, I will have at least a few days of lower carbs. So I'll cut out the pastries. After a workout, I won't go and have 4 or 5 pastries at the local bakery. Rice will be down, pasta will be down, all of these starches that are not really very nutritionally dense and are essentially empty energy, just empty calories, that will be basically cut out. It's not off limits, and if if my wife wants to get an ice cream with me, I'll say yes. I'll still enjoy little treats sometimes, or little small morsel, delicious little balls of fun. Why did I say that? Let's just keep moving on. That kind of thing. I'll still eat flexibly, but I will eat more consciously. I will eat in a way that reduces my carb consumption and thus my overall calorie consumption. It's not about carbs in particular. It's just about eating fewer calories in general, because I know that calories still count and calories are still the main driver of progress, even if I don't actually count them. I also don't follow a specific meal plan. Usually in the mornings, I am in a fasted state. I do take in casein to prevent catabolism, so it's not really a fasted state by any means. But it is reduced carb, reduced calories, and I tend to shift more of my food towards later in the day. That's just what works for me. Some people do better on a bigger breakfast. But if my wife cooks me breakfast or orders delivery for both of us or something like that, if there's like a brunch on the weekends or something, it's not like I slap the food out of her hand or anything. I just say, wow, thank you, and I have breakfast. So there's nothing wrong with eating flexibly, even when it comes to your meals as well as your food choices. I don't eat every 3 hours. I don't have a specific schedule. I don't have specific meals that I eat at certain parts of the day. It is very, very flexible, while also not tracking my calories or macros. So that is number 1, diet. Number 2 is the training. Honestly, my training doesn't change very much when I am dieting or bulking or maintaining or anything. My training is almost identical. The volume might go down slightly just because I don't have as much food energy coming into the system, and I might get tired a little bit more easily or have to rest longer between sets, that kind of thing. But the general structure of the training really doesn't change at all. If you add in a ton of volume when you are cutting, what the hell were you doing when you were bulking? Like, you had all that energy before in terms of food, in terms of a surplus, and now you're doing more volume when you have less energy. That just means you are sandbagging earlier in your training. It doesn't make any sense at all. Doing higher reps to carve the muscle baby, that also doesn't make any sense at all. What are you, a turkey on Thanksgiving?
Getting fucking shredded as hell, bro.
It can seem really intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. You just have to have the right tools.
No, okay? Higher reps do not carve the muscle. They don't even really burn all that many extra calories, and I don't really see the point in doing that, especially if you are a natural. If you're a natural, I think maintaining a more moderate rep range makes a lot more sense. If you forgo all of your heavy and moderate stuff and just shift to all lightweight baby,
Anybody can do that.
like actually lightweight baby,
Just a warm up.
to me, that doesn't make sense, and that is just inviting muscle loss. You should still maintain your normal training schedule. Now, in terms of cardio, I mostly just do walking. Last cut, I did quite a bit of running. I was actually a runner before I even started lifting weights, but I found that running 2 or 3 times a week, it did accelerate fat loss, but it definitely also caused muscle loss as well. I think if you do a lot of running as a natural, you will start to look like a runner who also lifts, not an actual bodybuilder or muscle person. You'll look like a runner who's a little bit more jacked than normal, which is not really what I want to look like personally. So I will mostly just walk. I don't have a lot of free time to go and just walk for 2 hours, but if I have an extra opportunity or excuse to go walk rather than use public transportation or something else, I will definitely seize that opportunity, especially when I am cutting. I work 70, 80, 90 hours per week most weeks, not including working out. So I just don't have a lot of time that I can just, I'm going to go for a morning walk for an hour. For me, that's not really a viable strategy. Number 4, I will track my progress. So because I'm not tracking the calories in, calories out side of the equation, I need to make sure that I have something to track my progress and to hold myself accountable. That's going to be 2 main things. First, the scale. So I weigh myself on a more regular basis, and I will try to get that trend line going down. If it's going flat, it means I need to eat a little bit less. Not rocket science. If it's going up, something is very, very terribly wrong. It could be water retention in the short term, but if it's been like a week and 2 weeks and my weight is climbing and I'm supposed to be cutting, that is not what is supposed to be happening. Even flatline should not be happening. Usually I try to lose maybe half a kilo to maybe a kilo per week, realizing that a lot of that, especially in the first few weeks, is going to be water weight. So it's not a kilo of fat loss per week. It is perhaps, half a kilo at most per week. And as I get leaner, I realize that hunger will go up and that rate of fat loss will necessarily go down. I will also check the mirror. Not every single day, not 5 times a day in the gym, like, oh, is my serratus a little more defined than yesterday? No, okay, you can't always see progress that immediately, but I should be seeing a general trend of getting leaner as the scale goes down and as my muscle mass is maintained or even gained, and therefore I'm going to be getting leaner, and I'm at the point where I should be able to see it. Perhaps an extra vein pops out, perhaps there's a little bit more separation somewhere that I didn't see before. For me, that is very motivating. And I spend a lot of time and effort to build the physique, and then during this cutting phase, I am revealing it. I'm actually being able to see what I built because it's not covered under that winter layer of blubber. In some ways, I actually personally prefer cutting to bulking. Bulking is more long-term, it's slow. I might gain a kilo of muscle per year, perhaps 2 in a very, very, very optimal state. But cutting can be much faster. It's much more dramatic, and you can see the visual changes much more quickly. And for me, I find that to be very motivating. Finally, I keep myself accountable and realize that it is mostly a choice-driven process. So if I go off the rails and, after a week of dieting, I destroy a pizza, to me, I don't feel bad, I don't feel guilty, but I realize that is fuel for the next few days. One pizza in a while isn't a big deal, but if that sort of gets you off the rails and now your weight is going back up, that is something that I need to be aware of and I need to take accountability for. So for me, I realize that my goal is more important than exactly how I feel. So I realize, there's going to be that time when it's 8 p.m. and I'm a little bit hungry and my hand is reaching for the delivery app and, I think, okay, maybe I'll just order something, but I know that whatever I order is not going to help me get to my goals. So I think it's important about making better choices and realizing what is going on behind the scenes mentally. All, some, or none of this might apply to you. This is just my personal experience and what I do to get to my goals. Your goals are probably different and your process will probably be different as well. But some of this might help, so I'm just putting it out there. All right, that's all for this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, diddle that notification bell, and I'll see you in that next video. Peace.